council, this being Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. Before we do the approval of the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Hazel for the special announcement she's going to make.
I would like to share our pleasure that Shannon is celebrating her 1-year anniversary in the town of Woodfin. And anybody who knows our inner workings will celebrate with me. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Here, here.
Any words from,
Oh, in the interest of time.
Is there a cake?
No,
Flowers.
sorry.
Can't be too important.
okay, next item will be approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next item, consent agenda. Shannon, you gonna
Yeah.
briefly go over that?
Keep this super brief. It's a very straightforward agenda. I don't know that there's really anything I need to highlight in particular. Item number 4 was something that was brought up in our last meeting. It's just a policy clarifying what the town's responsibility is as it relates to stormwater infrastructure, and this is versus private property owners' infrastructure, and this is as we embark on a lot of stormwater initiatives this year, so I thought it prudent to adopt that. Right before Ryan's departure, he caught a small amendment that he recommended in the open and closed session meeting minutes, just simply, you may recall, we made a change that allowed us to keep records of our meetings using electronic video and recordings. So that is our practice combined with a written set of action minutes. But in the event that technology fails us, which happens from time to time, we will default to written minutes. So we just clarified that in the policy. Street Capital Projects Fund is just another one of those cleanup budget amendments as we move to close out fiscal year 23. So as we plan for fiscal year 23. So I think that's relatively straightforward. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to speak? Have a limit of 3 minutes, but anyone wish to speak, address the board? Okay. Presentation and report, Shannon.
So, thank you, Mayor Vihan, members of the council. I'm going to begin my presentation with just an update on contracts and purchase orders that may have happened in the last month since the last meeting. We had one small contract with iWork. iWork, if you're not familiar, is the town's software vendor that we use for our permitting system. So this is a new module that will be part of the permit system modules that will manage the stormwater permits that we'll be taking over from Buncombe County, we anticipate in May or June of this year. So that's coming along. There was also a contract with Norfolk Southern for some preliminary engineering review for the some construction that would happen with the Taylor's Wave and Riverside Park. Norfolk Southern maintains the right-of-way on the west side of the river, and so more than likely, construction of the park is going to require constructing from both sides of the river towards the middle, and so that's what this work is for. We're going to have to do some more plan review with Norfolk Southern, and they will also have to do some construction administration for us. And then lastly, we have a contract with Lancaster Excavating and Demo for $63,500. This is for the Silverline Park building. This was our most responsible bidder, and so this is who we would be moving forward with.
And on the stormwater, will they give us a map of exactly what culverts and things belong to the town?
Yeah, so we have a few different stormwater happenings going on right now, different initiatives, all related to the stormwater program. And another one is, in addition to permitting that we'll be taking over, we contracted with Anchor QEA to do a stormwater inventory and assessment. So they are doing the field work right now, and I think it'll be completed by summer, I think, somewhere. And at that time, then we'll have a map of all of the infrastructure and also how a rating for all the infrastructure. So we'll know what the highest priorities are.
The only reason I asked, I got a call about one that I'm sure is on private property, but they want the town to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, if you have calls like that, feel free to forward them to us. We'll always go take a look. Right now, our stormwater administrator, Rob Dennis, is working with Anchor QEA. So because they're doing this field work right now, they might just run out there and take a look at it together. Other updates in administration, we have started the Town Hall Town Center Needs and Feasibility Study interviews. They will be occurring this week and next week, after which we hope to select a consultant and move forward with that process. End-of-year budgeting projections and fiscal year 24 budget prep. As you all know, our next budget work session is April 11th. And then our new town clerk is scheduled to begin work on Monday, March 27th. We're actually hoping that this week and maybe some of next week, this week she'll be able to actually come and spend a few hours just to kind of get acclimated and oriented to things before she starts. In the planning department, comprehensive planning process is rolling along. They had their second steering committee meeting earlier this week, and the next step will be our public meetings that will be occurring April 11th and 13th. That's what these signs here are all about. And there's going to be other yard signs placed throughout town to kind of help inform people, as well as our typical outreach efforts, the Facebook posts, the media blasts, that sort of thing. Board of Adjustment ended their epic 40-hour public hearing on the Robin Hood Road development. That concluded in March. The board members asked for some additional training, really kind of an opportunity to debrief over all of what they experienced and during that hearing process, and just to make sure they kind of understood all the ins and outs of it. And then we also have 5 additional appeals that are still pending. Now, they're all related to a single project, so we don't expect to have another 40-hour hearing for each 5 appeals. So I think we're going to do our best to kind of keep that moving expeditiously and smoothly. And then the planning board, some development activity starting to pick up. We have 2 conditional zoning applications pending that will be coming before them soon. Stormwater, I mentioned we have our stormwater assessment and prioritization that's currently underway. We are coordinating with Buncombe County staff on the stormwater permitting, and we expect that transfer to occur before June. And then our rate study is progressing. We are looking at some utility billing system options. We had previously spoken with Buncombe County about including our stormwater fee on the tax bill. Initially, when we approached them last year, they thought it was doable. They gave us some advice. They asked to have a certain amount of lead time. We came back to them a year later, and now they think that there are some particular challenges related to this. So it's forced us to have to step back and look at other options, which unfortunately means doing it in-house. And there are good things and bad things about it. Doing it in-house is not necessarily the worst thing. The thing that we're most concerned about is the collection rate. It's much higher if it's combined with your property tax bill than it would be if you get a separate stormwater bill from the town. So we'll have to take that into consideration when we set the rates for the stormwater fees. Parks, Public Works, and Facilities, the Silver Line Park building demolition contract was awarded. I mentioned that earlier. Demo work is to begin April 1st. The Public Works salt shed, we are expecting plans now. Finally, it's taken us a while to get plans. We should expect them within the next week or two, and we hope to have that work completed by the fall, in time for inclement weather. And then this is the time of year too where we look at our existing parks and we kind of give them a little freshen up, new sand, new mulch, thorough cleaning of the restrooms, get those reopened. I checked in with our Public Works Director. He does expect to open the restrooms. I can't remember if he said this week or next week, but now as the weather is starting to warm up and the extended forecast looks like we'll stay above freezing, I think he's feeling comfortable doing that. And that concludes my town manager's report. And if there aren't any other questions, I can roll right into new business.
Any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Do we have any items of new business to come before the board tonight?
I think just what I've got.
Okay.
We've got a few items of new business. One is the appointment of our zoning administrator. The town's ordinances, the zoning ordinance actually puts that naming responsibility on the governing board, so that would be the town council. You would name the zoning administrator. You had previously adopted a resolution back in 2021 naming the town planner as the zoning administrator. That's just a little unclear because we don't actually have a position that's a town planner. So we are recommending that we name Ricky Hurley, who is our planning director, as the zoning administrator. For all of the cases that have come in since he started work in October of 2022. The reason we're making that clarification is because I served as the interim zoning administrator, planning director, zoning administrator during a period of time between Adrian and Ricky, and during that time period, I became involved in a couple fairly large development cases, and so rather than try to introduce a third zoning administrator to those cases, we thought best just to keep me named as zoning administrator for those pre-October 2022 cases. Moving forward, though, we do anticipate bringing a text amendment before the council next month. We would recommend revising that section of Chapter 54 that authorizes or requires that the board name the zoning administrator to the town manager. I think the department has evolved, the town has evolved, and that I don't know that the board needs to do that. I think we can have the town administrator do it. So that concludes action on there. I think I did insert a suggested motion in the staff report if anybody would like to make a motion on that, or be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion. I move to appoint Ricky Hurley as the Town of Woodfin zoning administrator for all decisions not already in process prior to the start of his employment.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries.
All right, moving on to our second new business item is a proposal to combine the planning board and the Board of Adjustment. These are two separate planning boards that are part of town government. There are pros and cons to maintaining two separate boards versus combining the boards. If you were to combine the boards into a single planning board of adjustment, I think the pros are that it would aid in recruitment and retention. It's much easier to recruit for one board than it is for two. It also means that those agendas are likely to be more robust. We've had both boards have experienced a number of meeting cancellations because they just, for lack of an agenda. And sometimes that can go for several months, and one board will be busy and the other one won't be busy. And when you have these big lapses, it's harder to kind of re-engage those members. When you do have a meeting and you have a single case, sometimes it's hard to get a quorum to attend that meeting because now they've gotten used to doing other things or scheduling other activities during that time period. So We think that it would aid in keeping in recruitment, but also in keeping the board members engaged and keeping a quorum in those hearings. It's also a more efficient use of staff and volunteer resources. We're managing one board, one calendar, one set of rules of procedure, one group of members, rather than two. So it would simplify things to some degree. The primary con to combining them is that the planning board and the Board of Adjustment serve very different functions, and they follow different statutory rules. So it can be a little bit confusing for board members switching from one to another. Now, I think there are things you can do administratively to make that more clear, to help give them advice on when this transition occurs. We can also work harder at training those board members so that they really understand those two roles. And so I think that that's a con that's fairly easy to overcome. The other negative is that it can result in long agendas. You just don't know. It's just sometimes the planets align in such a way that you may have multiple planning board cases and a couple Board of Adjustment cases, in which case it could result in a longer than normal agenda. But that can actually technically happen now. It just increases the likelihood with two boards combined into one.
Shannon, for years, the town, that's the only way there was one.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd we change?
I think when we had a couple very complicated land use cases, there was some concern that board members were confusing those roles. And it's probably more problematic with the Board of Adjustment, which is a quasi-judicial hearing process. And if people don't follow those rules of conduct and those hearing rules properly, it could really jeopardize
But the
the
lawyer's
outcome.
here for all them, correct?
I'm sorry?
The lawyer is here for all those meetings too?
No, not always. It kind of depends on the case. I think when we have an appeal, we do typically bring in a lawyer. If it's a straightforward variance, we wouldn't necessarily include a lawyer.
Right.
Kind of depends.
I just thought,
And planning board doesn't ever usually have a
right,
lawyer.
okay.
So anyway, that concludes my summary. Staff does recommend moving forward with combining the two boards, but this is an opportunity to discuss it amongst the council members and give staff direction. So there is a suggested motion in your staff report, but of course, we could leave it the way it is, in which case you wouldn't be required to make a motion.
Do we have a plan for I assume we're leaving the size at 5 still. Have we thought about keeping maybe like 3 alternates as well? So we know we've got 10 people in the planning board and Board of Adjustment. Having alternate seats would seem to address or potentially address the main driver of this, which is not being able to establish a quorum for certain meetings.
Yeah, and right now, our Board of Adjustment has no alternates. We don't have any, because we haven't been able to recruit for those positions. So merging the two boards, we have 10 members, merged together would be, altogether would be 10, but we really only need 5. Well, I strongly suspect that we have at least a couple, maybe more board members who, given the opportunity to, kindly walk away from those responsibilities, I think they may take that opportunity, which then would narrow our pool even more. And then I also suspect we may have a couple who might be more interested in the alternate position rather than a regular meeting. We've discussed a 5-member option. We've also discussed a 7-member option that would help ensure that we have a quorum. We haven't really decided on which way to go yet, for sure, but probably explore those two options a little bit more when we prepare our text amendment.
I hate to keep bringing up past, but we used to have alternates for the planning board, planning zoning board. And I remember times when I served on that board, somebody'd have to be out, whatever, wouldn't have a quorum, and we could call them, and they'd get
Yeah.
here fairly quick, and we held the meeting.
That's
Yeah.
the way we do it at the city. We've got, I think something like 50% of the size of the board reserved as alternates so that we can just fill in gaps whenever it happens.
I mean,
Yeah, and that's how it is here, too.
I'd ask some of them others.
We just don't have anybody in those seats right now. They're vacant. But we do have alternate seats for our Board of Adjustment. So it would help with the quorum for sure if we had them. And of course, alternates can attend and participate in the meetings, to the same degree that others are. They just don't vote necessarily in all cases, so.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I think your recommendation is a good one.
You put
So we
that in the
need a
form of
motion.
I've got it. I move to direct staff to initiate a zoning text amendment to chapter 54 that combines the planning board and the board of adjustment into a single planning board of adjustment.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I'm going to turn it over to Chief Dykes for the last new business item.
Well, good evening. So this is probably my favorite time to come and talk in front of council is for the presentation of our Officer of the Year. Kind of give you a little background of our Officer of the Year. We've been running Officer of the Year since 2006, and this is something that is chosen by the officers. I don't take a vote in this. I just tally them up, and our officers are really good at recognizing the talent that we have within the department. And this year is obviously no exception. Our 2022 Officer of the Year joined us in November of 2019. And since he joined us, the guy's been gangbusters. I can't think of enough good things to show how motivated and positive he is. He's currently our ABC officer. He's taking classes nonstop. He's looking for ways to better himself and the department, and has just been a great asset to the community. And I can't think of enough good things to say about our 2022 Officer of the Year. And that 2022 Officer of the Year is Officer Colby Mahaffey. Colby, come on up. So present you with that. Do that. We're going to turn so Clint can get a nice picture. Do that again. And I'll pretend you're so. So, citation pin, so, congratulations. I'm very proud of you.
Means a lot.
Thank you.
You realize you're setting the standard, like setting the bar pretty high for this year's officers.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll deserve it too.
Back to back.
We'll try. So I don't typically do these types of things in terms of like speeches or anything. Not one to boast or take credit for these types of things. And truth be told, I can't take credit for any of it. We have a lot of great officers in this department that have helped me get me where I'm at. Everything from my field training officers to supervisors, to chief taking me in and teaching me a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, this is a great town to serve. I'm sure you guys feel just as lucky as I do to represent it. So that's pretty much all I have.
Introduce your family to us.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, sorry, babe. Yeah. My pride and joy sits right here in the nice, pretty blue. As you guys probably heard her at the beginning there, she's making a little bit of noise. This is Bonnie Elizabeth Mahaffey. She's 7 months old. My wife, beautiful wife, sitting on the left there, Callie Mahaffey. Best friends since, God, I don't know how long. We're getting old now, so very, very long time. Colton Ferguson sitting on the right here. My mom, who's holding my precious child. My niece and nephew, who are holding the camera there, which I'm sure I'll get to see later. My stepmom and my grandfather sitting up front here. So. Much like the officers of this department, every single one of them made me who I am. So.
Well, I'd like to take the opportunity to brag on Colby a little bit too. Colby was one of the first officers I met with when I first joined the staff, and made me feel really welcome helped me understand the culture in the police department and all what was going on, what their needs and hopes were, so I really appreciate it. So when the opportunity came to look deeper into the police department, look at some strategic improvements through our problem-based learning exercise, some recommendations were thrown out as to who should participate. Colby was one of them, and we were all, everybody unanimously thought, that's perfect, get him on the team, and he's been an outstanding team member, and we really appreciate the work of Colby and the others on the team. So, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that takes us to the end of our regular agenda, so.
Okay, do we need to have a closed session tonight?
We do.
Okay. Do we have any other new business to come before the board before we adjourn and go into executive session? Okay, hearing nothing, do we have a motion that we close this meeting, go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute